Welcome to DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630, the sports capital, where we shine a light on local stories from D.C., Maryland, and Virginia to inform, enlighten, and inspire you. I'm Barbara Britt, and my guest this morning will be familiar to you if you have lived in Maryland, Montgomery County for any amount of time. Bob Milloy, Maryland's all-time winningest high school football coach, right here with me today in studio, very excited. And he retired just a short time ago, spent more than 50 years coaching high school football across Maryland, but mostly Montgomery County, correct?
Yeah, it was 47 years, and it was all Montgomery, 31 in Montgomery County Public Schools, and the last 16 at Good Counsel.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And one of the many reasons that you are here with me today is because Montgomery County is going to have a sports hall of fame. And this is pretty new, isn't it?
Yes, it's
brand new.
Brand new. It's kind of caught me by surprise, but the inaugural class is in September.
That is
first year.
So exciting. And of course, I don't want to give away everything, but you are one of the inductees, and rightly so. And that's going to be on September 13th. And there's going to be a special ceremony in Silver Spring. What else do you know about it?
Not a whole lot. The people that are in it's really an honor for me even be in the conversation. I know there's 15 people that I would put in way before Bob Milloy. I can promise you that. But hey, I'll take it.
That is so exciting. So, and again, this is just a new thing for Montgomery County, honoring the people who have lived in Montgomery County in Maryland and have done well in sports and have really made an impact on the community, which is something that you have done. So some of the other names, Katie Ledecky, Dominique Dawes, are also going to be inducted. Have you met them before?
No, I never have. I'm looking forward to meeting Katie Ledecky. We actually went to the same elementary school.
You're kidding.
Little Flower Catholic Elementary School, and I used to tell everybody I was pretty well known from Little Flower, but until she came along, I put the end to that. But I've met her mom and dad and her family at one of the DC Hall of Fame things, and they're very nice people. But she is a phenom. There's no question about it. So I'd love to meet her.
That is so. Does she know that you two went to the same high school? Same elementary school?
Well, I told her mother that, but I doubt that she had got back to Katie Ledecky.
Okay. There's also a young man who's going to be inducted into the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame, Sean Springs. Tell us about him and tell us about your connection to him.
Well, I do know him pretty well. I coached him at Springbrook High School, and wonderful player, wonderful young man. He's just, he went to Springbrook. He went to Ohio State. He was, I think, the third person drafted in his senior year, and then he All-American Ohio State, and then played 13 years. He played under 3 Hall of Fame NFL coaches: Bill Belichick, Holmgren, and Joe Gibbs. So he's 13 years, but now he's a CEO of a protective helmet industry, and he's just a real article, and I'm just proud to be a friend of his.
That is so exciting, and I understand that he has made a special request from you for that special occasion when you are inducted into the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he asked me to introduce him or present him, and that won't be very hard. It won't be very hard to find a couple things to say about Sean Springs, so that won't be very hard.
That is so exciting. That is so exciting. And are you familiar with any of the other inductees that are going to be honored that day?
Well, I just know, who they are, of course, and Dominique Dawes, I believe, a gold medal winner, and so was Katie Ledecky. And Bruce Murray, I remember reading about him. I've never met him, but I remember reading about him. And Walter Johnson, what more can you say? Just Walter Johnson is even being the same conversation with people like that is really an honor for me.
So I have to ask you, in this day and age, when people sort of flit about and they kind of come and go, for you to be in Montgomery County as a high school football coach for so many years, do you think that longevity says something about who you are?
Well, it's just, I started coaching in 1961 was my first team, youth clubs, and it's just what I do, and I loved every minute of it. It was hard some places and some years is always hard, but I did, looking back, it was just a great job. You get to meet a lot of people. You have ups and downs, and the downs are awful, and the ups are terrific. And it's just I just couldn't imagine doing anything else for a living. But I had 31 years in Montgomery County Public Schools, and I was actually thinking of retirement. And then Good Counsel called and was looking for a coach, and they, they were 5 minutes from my home in Olney, and or were gonna be, and I just said, boy, I kind of started at DeMatha, and I ended up back in the Catholic League, and it really worked out well for me.
That is so exciting. I'm sure you don't necessarily have a formula, but for people who maybe don't know a lot about high school football coaching, tell us how you would interchange with the young men when you would first meet them, or how that went. How did that go?
Well, they change, every year, and but I've always maintained, kids are kids, and down deep inside, they'll accept, construction, and they'll accept criticism and discipline. They will, and the hair lengths will go back and forth and all this kind of stuff. But kids are kids, and basically they want discipline, and they'll fight it, but they'll do what you tell them to do.
And do you have, not to make it trite, but did you have a formula that you knew worked for you?
Just being straight up with them. I never tried to lie to them. You always told them the truth. Hey, if they played great, you tell them. If they played bad, you tell them. And they knew where you were at all times. They knew, if they went out on the weekend and did something wrong, they're going to hear about it on Monday. It's just, and you had to, even though you didn't want to sometimes discipline people, certain people, you had to, because the other 50 are sitting there waiting to see what you're going to do.
That's true. And sometimes that's difficult, at least for my very limited experience watching high school football from the sidelines, obviously, that there were always certain star players in certain circumstances, and they would do something wrong. And then everyone was watching to see, would they be corrected? Would they still start the next week, even though they had done something wrong? Whereas if it had been a young person sitting on the bench and was not necessarily, quote, as valuable as someone else as the star so-and-so, how did that go? Was that even-handed for you?
Well, you had to. Even though it's a lot easier to discipline the third-string guy, but, you lose your team. If they, you'll lose your team, and then they'll say they you can't fool kids. They know what's going on, and so you got to be straight up with them, and that's what I've always tried to do.
How many of these young men that you coached, or the families, have you kept in touch with over the years? Have you? You obviously knew what happened with Sean Smith, but over time, have you just kept in touch with them, or just sort of followed them to see where they went and what happened to them?
Oh, we have. Of course, I stay in touch with them. Now they're on to their own lives, and in the NFL and all that. But we have 6 Good Counsel kids in the NFL right now.
Wow.
And hopefully they'll all make their teams. But 2 of them are free agents. Sam Musfer and Jesse Annabonum from Maryland. But I send them texts, all of them. We have a lot of them playing in college, and I send them all texts. Wishing them luck. During the year, and then when I see something on TV, obviously I can't wait for the weekends, but I'll send them a text and say, like Kendall Fuller last week, first play of the Kansas City game, he hit a kid, came out of secondary and caused a fumble. So I said, where'd you learn how to do that? I never saw that at good counsel. So immediately he calls up after the game and said, "We're talking about." I always, he was never a real headhunter. He was a finesse guy. But yeah, it's just a great time of year for me.
That is so exciting. And so when you look back on all of these young men that you worked with, how important do you feel? And I know you don't want to brag on yourself, but what do you think about the role that you played in their life?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. I hope that they knew, that we did everything in our power to get them in a position to win, and to get them into college and so forth, and to coach them up and get them to be better players. And sometimes it wasn't easy. Sometimes they resisted a little bit, but hopefully they would look back and say, he gave us everything he had because we did. I mean, and not just me, but I had 12 assistant coaches that worked. We used to meet Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday night till 11 o'clock at night, and it's not fun sitting there in a room watching film over and over and over again. But at the end of the night, there would be disagreements and a few erasers thrown back and forth, but and all at the end of the day, we decided what we're going to do, and then we went and did it. The kids knew that. I mean, they knew that we, we just always said we don't ever want to be surprised. We want to be prepared for anything, and so I think that's what it's all about.
I'm speaking this morning with Bob Milloy on DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630, the sports capital. Bob Milloy, is Maryland's all-time winningest high school football coach, and I'm so excited to speak with him today. Did you play football in high school?
I was a terrible player. I was a third-string center at St. John's High School, and
right here,
in
Montgomery County,
down the street,
yeah.
Right. Well, they're Military Road, but no, I love sports, and but one day my brother came home from school, and he was playing Little Flower 8th grade 130-pound football, and I said, "Well, how's it going?" He goes, "Well, the coach quit. He left." So I called the priest up, Father Hughes, and I said, "Well, look, I was at prep school at the time. I said, look, I'm free in the afternoons. I'd love to do it." And he said, "Well," he said, "you can do it till I find somebody else." And well, that was 47 years ago. He never found anybody else. So, but now once I started doing it, I just loved it. I just loved sitting down at night and trying to think of where should this guy play and what play will work against that defense. And it just that's the only thing I could think about. So it just was easy for me to get into that career.
How did you know how to do that?
Well, I played a little bit of football, and I watched it. I started talking to coaches. I bought books, watched movies, and just studied it hard. And they have clinics every year all over. Well, now there's like, I don't know, there are too many of them now, but like the University of Maryland would have a clinic, Georgetown would have a clinic, and you go to the clinics, and you listen to the talks, and then you if you like something, you introduce yourself to the coach, and then you'd go watch your spring practice. And, just a lot of it was trial by error. Try this, it didn't work. Well, better not do that again. And so, it's trial by error. A lot of that, right, exactly.
How important do you think being part of high school sports is for a young person?
I think believe me, it's what the schools are known for. It's what kids want to go to your school for. You have I always felt you have a successful football fall, the whole school year just goes easier. And it just gives, there's wonderful kids out there, and there's some knuckleheads too. And, the knuckleheads have a chance to get out and do something well, and they pick up, hey, this, I really like this, and it can help me, but I can't do it unless I get the grades and behave myself. And I mean, it saves a lot of kids too. It really does.
And I know we are living in a day and age, I know like out in Virginia, there's certain high schools that aren't even able to field a team at this point because kids are doing other stuff, or they're online doing things, or they're playing video games. And there's a couple of schools, and of course I can't think of them at the moment, that aren't even going to put a high school football team together.
Yeah, that's awful. I hope the county will let the kids from that school that want to play football, let them play for the neighboring school. But you're right. I mean, it was different. I mean, when I was a kid, which millenniums ago, but you would go out in the morning and you'd come home for lunch, and then you'd come home from dinner. You're out on the field just playing baseball, touch football, whatever. And nowadays, kids just seem to want to stay inside, play video games, and watch TV, which I think is awful. I really do. But that's the way it is. But still, I still think today's football players are bigger, faster, and stronger than certainly they were 50 years ago. I mean, there's some great players out there, great athletic kids. So it's kind of a contradiction, but the game has really gotten pretty good.
Could you tell when you were a coach, when you would see the kids come in on the first day or the first week or so of practice, were you able to tell who was going to be one of your starters, or did it just take time?
A little of both. I mean, the great ones, they just stand out right away, and some of them, just mature as they go along through the years. Good Counsel, we had them as ninth graders, and a lot of the kids from Good Counsel, we saw them play in the youth leagues, and so we encouraged them to attend our school. But in the public schools, you would get a lot of big old boys show up that never played before, and they were too big to play in the youth leagues, so you really didn't know who they were. And those are the guys you're looking for, because if you got them interested and got them in the weight room, you can't coach size. I mean, you either are or you aren't.
That's right. You can't teach big.
You can't. And so, a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Now, I know, we live in a day and age where there's a lot of talk, not necessarily so much about high school football, but parents are concerned about concussion. They are concerned about those kinds of things. Was that a concern when you were coaching, or was it different?
Well, near the end of my coaching, it became big. I mean, we had summer camps, and the attendance in the summer camps was really dropping off. And I blame a lot of it on mothers being afraid of their son getting hurt. There's no question about that. When I was at Good Counsel, we had 3 teams. We had a freshman team, which always had 50 kids. A varsity had 50. The junior varsity usually had about 30. And the numbers dropped at our school and everywhere, I'm sure. But so now we just have a JV and a varsity. So we eliminated one of the teams. And hadn't affected the quality of football at all, but I think the mothers' fear of and all the media, exaggerating it really a lot, but my man Sean Springs is going to take care of that with his new helmet, and so he's going to bring football back. It'll be on his shoulders.
And they are doing a lot of now sideline or baseline testing for concussion, which is a good idea.
And there's much more instruction on teaching kids how not to use your head, and there's penalties now. Can't use your head.
It's on hits.
TV, right? It's on TV every Sunday and every college game, and so that filters down, and the kids are gonna, probably the game's probably the safest now it's ever been. The equipment is so much more, so much better right now than it was.
So I want to circle back to something you said. You said that the athletes today are better in many ways. Let me ask you, because I know another, we'll get the negative stuff out of the way. Obviously, there have been a lot of cases where we know that professional athletes have used steroids and other enhancing drugs that are illegal, and they pay a physical price for that as well. But are you saying that separate from that issue, that just overall athletes are better than they were?
They're bigger and they're faster and they're stronger. And I mean, like, everybody now has these terrific weight rooms and a weight coach. The fellow we have at Good Counsel, Skylar Sarr, I mean, he's unbelievable. And really, the weight coach has more interaction with the players than I do. I mean, they're with them 3 days a week, all year round. And but I mean, they're just bigger and stronger and faster.
And
because of the weight program and more awareness of nutrition and diet and better eating and sleeping habits. I mean, that, it's just it's a whole different world out there now.
And that's exciting, isn't it?
It is. It's for the better. And with the kids nowadays, they're faster and they're stronger. And it seems like they're bigger too, but you can't help but notice how big those people are out there on those fields.
I just remember years and years ago, I was working at a sister station here, and we had an opportunity to go out to the Redskins park, and we had breakfast with Charles Mann, who is a lovely person.
Yes, he is.
And he had a humongous neck. And everyone else I'm sitting with at the table is asking him all the sports questions, and me being me, I'm like, where do you get your shirts? Because he's not going into Macy's or Penny's and he just smiled very politely. He said, I have them custom made. He was so gracious. But yes, they are larger than the average person, but that's just, I guess, the grace of God. And as you said, some of the new nutrition and workout programs.
No question.
Talk to me about the young man sitting on the bench of the 50 who might have been sitting there, who maybe didn't really get to play and maybe wasn't the biggest, fastest, strongest. But do you feel that you had an impact on their lives as well?
Well, we in our practice situations, we told them, hey, you if you want to get off the bench, you got to make something happen in practice. Show us something in the drills and one-on-ones and things like that. And then if you do that, because we met every night and we was, somebody say, hey, that Johnny kid, he had a pretty good play, a couple plays today. So then, all right, so then you put him on like the kickoff return team, and you get him on film. And you watch what happens, and and if he knows now he's got an opportunity. So I mean, there was always open competition, and obviously, your starting quarterback had to really screw up to lose his job, but you left it open that hey, you get on a special team and you show us that you belong, and we will create a position for you, whether it's alternating at wide receiver or whatever. And I mean, so everybody. And there's some kids that are on the team that are just happy to be a part of the group and very happy to stay on that bench. I was one of those guys. But, you leave the door open so that through hard work and there is an opportunity to get on the field. And they got to believe that. And I think they did in our schools.
And there is something, and then maybe this is a mom thing, but just something of being part of a team, whether you're a young man or a young lady, that you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at our school, at all the schools that I was coaching at, like the game day, they could wear their game uniforms. And that's a big deal. All the girls say, oh, I didn't know you were on the football team. And so that was
still a motivation?
That was yes, it is. And so that was a big deal. So, it's, and especially if you're successful. Then more people want to be a part of it.
That's so exciting. I'm speaking with Coach Milloy, Bob Milloy, Maryland's all-time winningest high school football coach here on DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I have to ask you, you must have some very favorite memories that stick with you from over your 47 years of being a high school coach, and not that you necessarily have a favorite over another, but just some, when you think back over just different moments on the sideline, just certain times that are sort of frozen in your memory. Can you share some with us?
Well, there was, hundreds. I will say, and I haven't said it yet today, but the coaching and all that kind of stuff, it gets down to players. I mean, usually the coach with the best players wins the game. We all think we outcoach each other, but really the coaches kind of balance each other out. It's the one with the players. But one of my favorite stories is that we're playing Gonzaga. Good Counsel's playing Gonzaga in the 2010 championship game, and it's at Navy, I think. Navy or Maryland, I can't remember. But anyway, so we have Stephon Diggs, who's made quite a name for himself. And so the first play of the game, we're on our 22-yard line, and we ran what we call fly sweep, and Stephon came across, and it's basically a sweep. He just runs wide to the right. Well, Gonzaga, when I looked up, there was 5 purple jerseys waiting for Stefan. And Stefan stopped, and he reversed, and he ran through every player on their team and scored an 80-yard touchdown. And I turned around, and one of my coaches said, "Now that's good coaching." Because Gonzaga they did everything right. They had everybody there. They expected to play. They defended it, but they couldn't tackle Stefan Diggs, who is doing the same thing right now up in Minnesota. So, really, we were smart enough to get the ball to him a lot of different ways, and also smart enough to make sure he never got hurt during practice. And that's another thing. The game's changed so much. You hardly do any tackling and live stuff anymore. A little bit in the lines on Monday or Tuesday, but you can't get people hurt. I mean, it doesn't make sense. If they're going to get hurt, it should be during a game, not during practice.
How important is it to have a thinking player like that? A thinking player who can think on his feet.
They have to be smart, and they have to be able to think on their feet. Stefan Diggs, all you had to do one time is just tell him what you wanted, and he could do it. Sometimes you got to rep people over and over and over again, which takes time. And but Stefan, one time, and he knew what to do. And but he was a rare guy. But there's a lot of people out there like him. Your quarterbacks, they got to know what everybody's doing, and that's why they're so valuable. That's why they make so much money.
You told me there's hundreds of stories. Share a couple more.
I don't know about funny stories, but you remember your championships. I mean, I'll never forget in 1966, I had a little 130-pound football team. We played our championship over at Carroll High School, and we had a terrific team, and we won. But I mean, back then, the stadium was almost full. I mean, Morgan Wooten was at the game, Joe Gallagher, Moss Collins, and they were all, because we had all these kids who were all going to go to the Catholic high schools. And that was my first championship, and that was one I'll never forget. I'll never forget that. There was another game at Springbrook. We were playing Oxon Hill, and it was a semifinal. The winner went to the state championship the next weekend, and we were pretty much out of the game. The game was over, and I mean, I know a third of the people were walking out. They were leaving, and we got the ball back. It was like, I don't know, less than a minute, no timeouts on our 20, and we started putting the drive together, and the people started coming back. They started coming back.
Awesome.
I'm told, and
you were busy.
So we've had an out of bounds play, and we had really one more play, and I said to the quarterback, "What do you think?" I said, "What about the draw?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Throw the ball to Josh." So Terry Wolfram was the quarterback, Josh Fedlin was the receiver, and the last play of the game, we scored a touchdown. We went for 2. Kevin McClinton was a great player at Maryland. He caught it, and we won. And meanwhile, all these people were running back in through the parking lot because it should have never happened. I don't still to this day know how we did that, but we did it, and that's a tough one to forget.
Those are so exciting, such exciting memories, and I just want to thank my guests this morning. I've been speaking with Bob Milloy, Coach Milloy, Maryland's all-time winningest high school football coach, and he is retired now, and he's about to be inducted into the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame. And are you looking forward to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's quite a thrill. I mean, for me to be even mentioned with those kind of people, really.
So exciting. It'll be on September 13th in Silver Spring with a special ceremony, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today on DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I'm Barbara Britt, and you can check us out online at espn630dc.com.